I think you heard me a lot about the cyclodextrin thing, and I think it's the time for us to go deep into cyclodextrin as a clinical application of it, and what is cyclodextrin. What I do right now currently, I'm all our informations, I'm turning it into a publication format that similar to the publication that we are getting it from NIH, using artificial intelligence. I use a lot of artificial intelligence in everything, my message, text, and now I bought this the Pro 16 phone, which is all artificial intelligence. I encourage all the doctors to start working with artificial intelligence because it's the only way you can scan the information that's in the net, all of it, and then extract exactly what you're looking for. And there's no better than artificial intelligence. And it's very important to be intelligent when you talk to artificial intelligence, because if you put trash in the artificial intelligence, you will end up receiving trash. But if you able to direct the artificial intelligence, then you can get the information that you're looking for. So you cannot be a regular person and say, I'm going to write an article. You have to really, from the artificial intelligence, you really need to verify the information yourself. You're going to have to go through it. You have to edit it, fix it, and then ask the AI again. As I said, when Dr. Klatt sent me a text about that a drug that induces labor, it's being used to treat degeneration of the brain, and it helps to clear the brain from the waste of the brain. I thought immediately it's oxytocin. And I did send, because the article did not show very clearly what it is. And I did send the artificial intelligence and say, is it oxytocin? And the artificial intelligence responded and say, yes. And I start sending this information to all the doctors. But then when I went to the references, because you can get more references about this article, it came out it's not oxytocin, it's prostaglandins. Well, prostaglandin, you cannot use it intranasally. So I did repeat, asked artificial, are you sure about oxytocin? Can you bring me an article specifically of oxytocin? And yes, so he sent me an article specifically for oxytocin does help to stimulate the cervical lymphatics to contract to clear up the brain waste. And so you can prostaglandins, or you can use oxytocin. They work the same mechanism in clearing up the waste of the brain. And so I think if you understand how to communicate with artificial intelligence, you can definitely get what you're looking for. So that's what we have here. Let's go ahead and show you the article that we developed. Okay, here we go. Okay. Okay, can you see this? Can you see the screen? Is it clear?
Yeah.
Can you hear me, guys? Okay, good.
Yeah.
So the title is Innovative Use of Cyclodextrin for Triglyceride and Cholesterol Management in Atherosclerosis.
There's a picture of Shell or whoever's talking blocking some of your information. How do we get rid of that?
Let me see if I can. Okay. Okay, so you have your, is that now good or no?
No, it's got my face.
Okay, you got your face, right. Okay, well, maybe I need to remove the sharing. No. Okay. Well, I would make sure that we go through all, we go through everything, okay? So basically, what we are looking for here is that the cyclodextrin, it works similar to high-density lipoprotein. We know high-density lipoprotein, how it works, right? They're a little spherical of phospholipids and some proteins, and they go into the blood vessels and they collect all those bad cholesterol and oxidized cholesterol, um, and those trash of fatty acids, and especially the cholesterol, and then those oxidized cholesterol, which is the bad ones, and they take it back to the liver and dump it to the liver, to the bile, and that's how you excrete all those oxidized cholesterol that's going to be harmful, that leads to atherosclerosis. And so having high density lipoprotein is very important, because it's like a trash truck cleaning up the street, cleaning up the blood vessels from all the trash which are mainly it's oxidized cholesterol. Um, what but we cannot really give to the patient high density lipoprotein. We don't have pharmaceutical company creating high density lipoprotein to boost the endogenous high density lipoprotein. Yes, we have things that can increase the high density lipoprotein, like exercise and antioxidants and things that, but we don't inject high density lipoprotein in the body to clear cholesterol from the blood vessels. So what happened is that cyclodextrin can be a mimic of high density lipoprotein. They are spherical of oligosaccharides or polysaccharides, and they form sphere. And inside the sphere, it's hydrophobic. Outside is hydrophilic, so it can dissolve into the water. And then they go in to the blood vessels, even inside the cells, and they start collecting all the bad cholesterol from the blood vessels and clear them, and then take them to the liver, to the bile, and dump them there. Same like high density lipoprotein. So it boosts the high density lipoprotein, and it clears up all those fat soluble toxins, oxidized cholesterol, excess of fatty acid, xenoestrogens, mycotoxins, microplastics, organophosphorus, all those fat soluble toxins, along with xenoestrogens, along with oxidized phospholipids and cholesterol. We can clear them using cyclodextrin. I learned this, and who's the one who really brought this to the table is Dr. Klatz. He said, I was taking this medication. It helps me to improve my health. And then I figure out, well, this is something we need to investigate. So it seems like, Dr. Klatz does send us a lot of information, and he inspires us, and I investigate and I look farther how we can add more clinical applications. And yes, definitely, it's going to be the new trend of medicine, because now we have a solution for detoxing the body from fat-soluble toxins. Dr. Patel and we have a problem of figuring out how we can detox the body from fat-soluble toxins. And one way we said we can do it by sweating, and that's right, that's one way of doing it, but we don't have a chelation or detoxifier at that time. When me and Dr. Pitalis, we are brainstorming, we know EDTA that we are using, it's just for heavy metals and water-soluble toxins, but will not touch the fat-soluble toxins, will not touch the microplastic, the mycotoxins, and xenoestrogens. And so now we have a solution, and I think I came up working with a compounding pharmacy to develop an IV cyclodextrin loaded with EDTA. And so the EDTA would do the heavy metals and the water-soluble toxins, while the cyclodextrin will take care of the fat-soluble toxins. So you have two birds with one stone. So this is the project that we are working with, hopefully with Dr. Pureta. And I think it's going to be a good thing if we develop this and we start publishing it and see the efficacy of it. And definitely we need to have an endothelial function test pseudomotor to monitor the efficacy of this treatment of detoxing and clearing the blood vessels from all this waste, whether it is fat soluble or it is water soluble by loading cyclodextrin with EDTA. So that's the new concept, and it's going to help doctors who are doing EBO. Um, and basically, EBO is just detoxifying the using oxygenations and light to break down the toxins, possibly. Um, but adding cyclodextrin here would definitely help those EBO machines in detoxing the body. So you do it before EBO. It will be good also if you do it before plasmapheresis, because plasmapheresis has a filter to filter all those immune complex and fat soluble toxins. But it would be good if we can have cyclodextrin um, as a way to react to all those things and collect them, and then the filter of the machine of plasmapheresis will clear them up easily. So doing it before EBO or before plasmapheresis, it's a brilliant idea. I don't think we have plasmapheresis in integrative clinics yet, but in Germany they do. Um, and I'm traveling to Germany and see if we can find a compact plasmapheresis here, so we can help the integrative doctors to start doing that. So cyclodextrin, it's a high density cyclodextrin and high density lipoprotein and triglyceride managements are pivotal to managing cholesterol level and atherosclerosis. So we want to manage atherosclerosis, we really need to consider increasing the high density lipoprotein, and we need to possibly give the patient some cyclodextrin, because that helps to boost the efficacy of the high density lipoprotein, plus other things that we're using it for triglyceride management, which is exercise and possibly drugs that inhibits absorption of the fatty acids. Now, again, I am with I'm not with people saying, oh, you can take fat as much as you can. The reality is that when you take fat, it will inhibit you will reach to the satiety, and you don't eat because of the fat does cause it stops the appetite. So yeah, so fatty food helps you to eat less. Um, and so I'm not expecting that if you eat fatty food, that's mean you will have a desire to eat a lot of fat, or I recommend that you can eat unlimited fat. That's not healthy thing, because we don't want to have fatty acids to be high or cholesterol to be high in the blood. Um, but what we need is that we need to have it normal, but at the same time, I am against normalizing fatty acids and cholesterol by inhibiting their synthesis. I think we can normalizing it better than that by increasing their clearance from the body, by improving the liver function, by improving the clearance, by giving cyclodextrin. Possibly that helps to clear all those bad extra fatty acids, or oxidized fatty acid, oxidize the phospholipids, or oxidized cholesterol, or maybe decrease absorption of fat if the patient has too much of tendency to absorb fat. But I'm against inhibiting the synthesis of cholesterol with statin as much as possible, because it will lead to a problem with making sex hormones. And if you don't make sex hormones, then you end up to ground one. That sex hormone is very important to express antioxidants. So if you don't have enough of antioxidants, you generate free radicals, and the free radicals will oxidize those fat and cause plaques and cause the deposition of fat, of oxidized LDL, irritate the macrophages, and cause the initiation of the plaque formation. So there is in the equation here, we see on the right side, the reactants are the fat or cholesterol and free radical generators. And that gives you an oxidized cholesterol or fatty acid or phospholipids. And those are not good, because they're the one who's going to cause the damage in the blood vessels. So LDL by itself, that's not oxidized, will not damage the blood vessels. But once it oxidized LDL, which we can measure, they are the one who will irritate the macrophages. And so in the equation here, we see that there is reactants, which is the LDL or the cholesterol, and the free radical generators will give you this oxidized LDL, or that will lead to irritation and damage and the plaque formation. But if you increase any of those reactants, it will increase the production. So what's that mean? We don't want to recommend increasing the intake of fat and limited and go high level of fatty acids and cholesterol in the blood and say it's okay. No, because they will have more chance to react with those free radical generators and generate oxidized LDL. So we need to keep it as normal level, and not by inhibiting the synthesis but by increasing their clearance, by boosting the liver function. And that's what Dr. Joseph James, which I'm going to visit, I think on October, because we're going to present at the Academy of Stem Cell Physician. And what he does in the morning, and I enjoy drinking it. What you do, Dr. Joseph, the green stuff, he makes things. I don't know if he's here, Dr. Joseph. Dr. Joseph, are you there?
Yeah. I'm just giving myself a MOS PEMF treatment while I'm getting a vitamin C drip. Celery juice, which I kind of got away from for a little while, but I'm gonna get back consistent with it. But celery juice it's like they always hide what actually is going on, but it's a salt cluster that seems to do the magic. And when I really tried to learn chemistry of what sodium clusters might be, it turns out it's like nature's soap for the inside of the body. So it's literally going in and cleaning out the bile and the liver, and similar to cyclodextrin, it's a salt cluster chelator, I guess you could say it like that.
Helps to drain the bile, so that it may emulsify it, thinning the bile, so it will drain the liver from those toxins, because you don't want to have a thick bile there where they stuck, and then you cannot get rid from toxins through the bile, because the bile is a way we get rid from toxins, including those oxidized LDL and those oxidized lipid.
So it's kind of like Drano is another way that I see it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, think about it with this toxin overload. It's like a car filter that just gets, the liver is like the filter that just gets clogged up, and then the bile gets thickened, and then apparently the liver may become a reservoir for viral overgrowth, okay, and other pathogens. Okay,
right.
That's from the medical medium books, and so that's where that resource is from.
So basically what you're doing is you're eating all this green stuff as an antioxidant, plus clearing up the liver function and improve the liver function by draining the bile itself. And cyclodextrin does collect all this waste along with high density lipoproteins, and then they dump them into the bile. So the method is to really increase the clearance of the fatty acids and the cholesterol, not to inhibit their synthesis as much as you can, because statin, if you give a statin, you may end up reducing the cholesterol that needed to create sex hormones. And if you don't have enough of sex hormones, then you don't have enough of antioxidants, because sex hormones stimulate the expression of antioxidants. And if you don't have enough antioxidants, you end up generating radicals. You end up generating free radicals, and those. Can you mute whoever speaks?
Sorry.
Right. Okay, guy, whoever he is.
I didn't know we had teenagers on our call.
Okay, good. So here's the thing. In the equation, we have reactants. We have the fat, cholesterol, and then we have the free radical generators. And we really need to buffer both and normalizing them as much as we can. Now, the question is that what is the free radical generators? And the most important free radical generators is the sugar, the glucose. The glucose get oxidized very readily, and they become glycans, and they are the most damaging free radicals that will react with fat and generate oxidized LDL and causing damage of the blood vessels. Even if you have normal LDL level and you have high glucose, diabetic, right? What you will find your blood vessels being fried. Why? Because those extra glucose, especially with excess of insulin, because insulin also causes stimulation of generation of free radicals, and those free radicals will react with sugar and become glycans, and they become free radical generators, which will oxidize the LDL and all the fat, the fatty acids and the phospholipids and the cholesterol, and that leads to oxidized LDL to go high and damage, irritate the macrophages, and initiate the plaque formation. So, what we've been learning before, that you don't eat meat but eat cake. Cake is more worse than meat because the cake is actually a mixture of fat and sugar, and you don't want to have fat and sugar in your diet together because they will react with each other and generate oxidized fat or oxidized cholesterol or fatty acids or phospholipids. And so, if you have normal LDL and you have diabetic and high sugar, right, you will end up with atherosclerosis. So the atherosclerosis, it's not because you have too much of fat. It's because you have too much of oxidized fat due to high glucose, which is a free radical generators, along with increasing glucose means increasing insulin. Insulin stimulates free radical generators inside the cells, and this will lead to frying the blood vessels. So I have an uncle, and he said, "Oh, you know what? My niece, which is me, I switched from metformin to insulin. Why? Because metformin caused me to lose weight. Yes, metformin does cause weight loss, which is something we use it for obesity and metabolic syndrome, which is better for him. And I don't think the doctor's there to just say, okay, we just switch you to insulin. Although he can work with metformin, it's fine, and he just have to improve his nutrition. And so what he does, but I take insulin, and then I eat whatever I want, sugar and whatever, right? That is like putting gas in fire, because when you give insulin and you give sugar, insulin stimulates oxidative stress. Those free radicals will react with the sugar that you're eating and turn into glycans, and that will lead to oxidizing LDL, and that leads to atherosclerosis. So anybody who is eating sugar and carbohydrate and shooting insulin to lower the sugar in his blood, the reality is that he's causing damage to his blood vessels and frying it, same like putting fire in the gas. So don't do that. Don't recommend that. And tell the patients these two things, if you add it together, it will definitely lead to atherosclerosis, and it will lead to all the problems and early death. So when we manage diabetic type 2, we will try very hard to increase sensitivity to the insulin versus giving insulin, because once you give insulin, you need to stop taking sugar as much as you can. But increasing insulin sensitivity using polyphenols and using amloxanox and metformin, I think it's the way to go when you manage diabetic type 2. So now we learn that we will try not to give the patient drugs that inhibit the synthesis of fatty acids or cholesterol, but we will give things that helps to possibly decrease absorption of fat if the patient has high LDL. But if the patient has normal LDL, don't do that, and or fatty acids. But if they have high, then choose the drugs that inhibit the absorption or increase the clearance of it. And I think cyclodextrin will be the answer. You can load it if the patient has high LDL or fatty acids. You can load it with drugs that helps in decreasing the absorption of the fatty acids. But try to avoid the ones that inhibit the synthesis of cholesterol specifically, because if you inhibit the cholesterol, you don't have much of 6 hormones, then you don't have much of antioxidants, then you generate a lot of free radicals, and those free radicals react with the LDL, gives you oxidized LDL, causing atherosclerosis. So low 6 hormones due to statin can aggravate atherosclerosis. So you defeat the purpose of the statin by doing that. So that's something we learned it from experience in clinical. I don't think the mainstream medicine recognized this yet, but we will help to make them recognize it by publishing articles like this at worldhealth.net, where we can inform the mainstream medicine about the way we manage high triglyceride and LDL in a more conservative, integrative approach. So cyclodextrin is cyclic oligosaccharides. It forms inclusion complex with cholesterol, with fat-soluble toxins, with mycotoxins, with microplastic, name it, with organophosphorus, any fat-soluble toxin, xenoestrogens, which is very important when we manage estrogen dominant syndrome, enhancing its solubility and facilitating to removal. And high-density lipoprotein does the same thing, right? It does help to clear the blood vessels from excess of fat, especially the oxidized ones, and it will reverse the cholesterol transport because it will take it from the tissue into the liver, moving the cholesterol from the arteries to the liver for excretion. Now, we need to work on keeping the liver healthy as much as you can, and providing supplements that helps to drain the bile, thin the bile as much as you can. And I think Dr. Joseph just give us the answer for that. Effective triglyceride management is critical in reducing cardiovascular risk. And we're going to learn about triglyceride management would include exercise and dieting and polyphenols. This article and the omega-3 compares 3 mechanism effectiveness and application in cholesterol management and atherosclerosis treatment, including the potential. That's what I'm trying to come up with, is compounding cyclodextrin with drugs that may inhibit the absorption of the fat. If you have too much of fatty acid in the blood, you don't want to have too much of it. As I said, that's a reactant. And if you have a little diabetic, then it will definitely end up becoming atherosclerosis. If you have too much of fat and the patient has diabetic and sugar is high and fat is high, I mean, that's a risk of, atherosclerosis, because fat and sugar react with each other, especially the sugar react with oxygen, become glycans. And glycans will oxidize the fat and generate all those oxidized LDL and irritate the macrophage and initiate the plaque. And so it is very important to normalize the sugar plus normalizing the fat and cholesterol, but try not to inhibit their synthesis. Try to do that by clearing it using cholesterol, or by inhibiting the absorption of fat and cholesterol. And cyclodextrin does inhibit the absorption of cholesterol, by the way, from the food. Cholesterol and triglyceride management are crucial in preventing atherosclerosis, leading cause of cardiovascular diseases. Cyclodextrin, high-density lipoprotein, triglyceride management, which some of them is exercise and drugs, which is the fibrate, play a significant role in the process. In this article, explore the mechanism, effectiveness, potential therapeutic application. So now we know that, cyclodextrin can be a mimic, support, boost the function of high-density lipoprotein. Let's go with the mechanism function of cyclodextrin, our cyclic oligosaccharide that can form inclusion complex with cholesterol, especially the oxidized one, effectively, and trapping cholesterol molecule within their structure, and then carry it to the liver, to the bile, and dump them. This enhances the stability of cholesterol and facilitate the removal from the body. Additional cyclodextrin has been shown to bind, even you can clear the triglyceride with it too. So you can use cyclodextrin for both. So if you have high triglyceride, high cholesterol, you give them cyclodextrin. What kind of cyclodextrin here? They say the beta works more with cholesterol. The alpha cyclodextrin works with both cholesterol and triglycerides. So if you want to manage atherosclerosis, try to mix alpha and beta cyclodextrin. There's 2 forms of cyclodextrin, beta and alpha. The alpha reacts with both cholesterol and triglyceride, beta more with cholesterol. So if I want to do a compounding formulations to manage atherosclerosis, I will use both alpha and beta cyclodextrin, and possibly loaded with niacin, with fibrates, just to inhibit the absorption of the fatty acid. Studies have shown that the cyclodextrin, particularly beta cyclodextrin, can reduce cholesterol uptake by the macrophage and inhibit the cell formation, the foam cell formation, inhibits the foam cell formation, which initiate the plaque, a key process in development of atherosclerosis, the plaque of atherosclerosis, right? That's a good thing. Furthermore, alpha cyclodextrin, so there's two cyclodextrin, alpha and beta. Alpha can work with both triglyceride and cholesterol, demonstrate its ability to bind and remove triglyceride, contributing to weight loss and improved lipid profile. So if I want to manage atherosclerosis and the patient has high triglyceride and cholesterol, I will create a compounding from cyclodextrin, alpha and beta, and then I will mix it to the fibrates or to the niacin and to omega-3, right? And I create a nice capsule that is not statin, and that will help to clear the cholesterol, the bad ones, decrease their absorption, and lower the level without affecting the synthesis of the 6 hormone. So the applications, cyclodextrin, are being explored to potentially therapeutic agent for conditions like Niemann-Pick disease and atherosclerosis due to their ability to scavenge cholesterol and triglyceride. High-density lipoprotein, which just we want to compare between cyclodextrin and high-density lipoprotein. We can consider cyclodextrin boost the high-density lipoprotein, and they mimic the high-density lipoprotein, right? So one of the way we manage atherosclerosis to increase high-density lipoprotein, but we cannot give it therapeutically. We cannot inject high-density lipoprotein. It has to be endogenously produced, and so we stimulate the endogenous production of high-density lipoprotein by giving exercise, antioxidants, polyphenols. All this may help to increase the high-density lipoprotein. High-density lipoprotein is known as a good cholesterol because it helps to transport cholesterol from the arteries to the liver, and so they are a good carrier for cholesterol, which then can be processed and excreted. But we need to make sure that all the biles, the clogging biles, is being cleared by the use of those supplements that Dr. Joseph talked about. This process is known as a reverse cholesterol transport. So who is carrying the cholesterol, fatty acid cholesterol from the liver to the tissue? Very low density lipoprotein, right? Okay, and then once they feed the blood vessels, then you need to clean the waste and the junks that's coming from the oxidation of those fatty acids and cholesterol. The high density lipoprotein does that. To boost that, you give what? Cyclodextrin. Efficacy: the high density lipoprotein can extract cholesterol directly from aggregated low density lipoprotein and inhibit the macrophage inhibit the macrophage foam cell formation, thereby playing a protective role against atherosclerosis. That's what high density lipoprotein does, and we need to increase the level of the endogenous production of high density lipoprotein with exercise, with antioxidants, with omega-3 and etc. Despite its natural role in cholesterol management, therapeutic attempt to exploit high-density lipoprotein have faced a challenge. We cannot really make high-density lipoprotein pharmaceutically injected to the body. We don't have that. And more research is needed to fully understand the function and the potential clinical application. Again, we can increase endogenous production of high-density lipoprotein, but we cannot really inject them. So what we can do, we can give cyclodextrin, which will mimic both alpha and beta, which will mimic the high-density lipoprotein in clearing up the fat, the excess of oxidized fat. Triglyceride management mechanism. Triglyceride are type of fat found in the blood. The body convey calorie, or the body converts any calories to any calories that and right away to triglyceride. Right, when you eat sugar, all this excess sugar will be converted to fat. Right, that's why if you're giving any weight loss program, you ask the patient to decrease the carbohydrates, because all this excess of carbohydrate will convert into triglycerides stored in the fat. If the patient is taking diet and has fat, the fat helps to inhibit the appetite, so he doesn't eat much, and that's a good thing, right? In management of obesity. High level of triglyceride can increase the risk of heart disease, so it's very critical that we normalize it. And we're normalizing it by not inhibiting their synthesis as much as by inhibiting their absorption or increasing their clearance. That's the best way of doing it, and cyclodextrin is the way they can do that, especially cyclodextrin alpha, cyclodextrin. Effectiveness management of cyclodextrin involve lifestyle change such as diet, exercise, and in some cases medication if it takes. And what the NIH very low fat diet, weight management, right, and physical activity in individual with high triglyceride. You may use medications, and the 5 rates are the ones that we use, niacin and omega-3. So managing triglyceride is crucial for reducing the risk of pancreatitis and cardiovascular diseases. Medications such as fibrates, niacin, and omega-3 fatty acids are often used to lower triglyceride level. And the mechanism of action, the fibrates stimulate the peroxisome proliferator activator receptor alpha, the PAR alpha, the PPAR alpha, which controls the expression of the gene involved in lipid metabolism. This results in reducing the synthesis of triglyceride and very low density lipoprotein, and increase the synthesis of lipoprotein lipase, which catabolize triglyceride. Now, again, if the triglyceride is too high and cyclodextrin itself did not work, and everything that we did is not working, you may need to, and omega-3 and niacin is not working, you may need to lower using fibrates for this condition. But sometimes you don't need it. Just alpha cyclodextrin, beta cyclodextrin will do it, and so you don't interfere with the synthesis of the fatty acids as much as you can. As I said, if it takes that you need to do it, and just cyclodextrin is not enough, or omega-3 is not enough, niacin is not enough, then you move to the steps of inhibiting the synthesis of triglyceride. But start with more conservative way of doing it. Just create a compounding pharmacy formulation of cyclodextrin alpha and beta plus niacin and omega-3, and see how it works. And if it works and normalize the fatty acid level, then you're good. If not, and the fatty acid is still high, then you may consider fibrates to decrease the absorption of the synthesis of fatty acids. Niacin inhibits the hepatic synthesis of very low density lipoprotein, LDL, leading to decrease the level of this lipoprotein in the blood. It also increases the high density lipoprotein. So that's a good thing about niacin. It does increase the high density lipoprotein level. And that is very important to clear cholesterol. So possibly you start with niacin, and if it doesn't work, then you may go up to the fibrates. So alpha beta cyclodextrin loaded with omega fatty acids. If it's not working, just add niacin. If it's not, you go to fibrates. But try to avoid as much as you can giving statin. Maybe this will be enough to lower the fatty acids and cholesterol. Omega-3 is it's an EPA, and it is a DHA, and it reduces the triglyceride level by inhibiting the diglycerol acetyl transferase, increase the plasma lipoprotein lipase activity, and decrease the hepatic lipogenesis, right? And it increases the hepatic beta oxidation. So it helps to burn the fat and get rid from the fat, and that's exactly what we are looking for. Potential compounding of cyclodextrin. As I said, you start with alpha beta cyclodextrin by itself and see if it works. If it doesn't work, you can add omega-3. If it's not working, you can add niacin and then fibrates. So you can create the conservative steps of managing the fatty acid and cholesterol. And you can start with omega-3 and cyclodextrin alpha and beta. If it's not working, you can add niacin. If it's not working, you can add the fibrates, and possibly you're doing it more naturally than giving the patient statin, because I can see that the highest scripts is statin. Statin is one of the highest prescribed drug in the world. And I think that need to be lowered, and looking for alternative that helps to clean the body from cholesterol instead of inhibiting the synthesis of cholesterol, or something that help increase the synthesis of high density lipoprotein, as we saw omega-3 is one of them. So uh, loading cyclodextrin alpha with omega-3 and possibly niacin, and then if it doesn't work, you go to fibrate. Hopefully, we will not give statin to the patient, but I see most of the doctors, they just start with statin, and that affect the synthesis of their sex hormones and affect their antioxidant capacity, generating free radicals. And that's one of the equation of the damaging of the blood vessels. The blood vessel does not damage or cannot is not damaged because of the high LDL by itself. It is the oxidized LDL. And what produced oxidized LDL is the free radical generators. So anything that increases the free radical generators, whether it is sugar, could be other things, could be Lyme disease, it could be rheumatoid arthritis. Anything that it causes inflammation, oxidative stress can cause and increase the free radicals. And oxidizing, even if you're normal LDL, you have, well, I have normal LDL, normal fat, and I still have atherosclerosis. What's going on? It's because your fat, the LDL or cholesterol that you have normal, it's being oxidized by the free radicals, whether it's because you have diabetic or you have mycotoxin, you have Lyme, you have rheumatoid arthritis, you have hypertension, anything that causes increase the free radicals. It leads to damage in the atherosclerosis. That's why having an endothelial function test helps you to measure the status of the body, your redox status, your inflammatory status, and if it's high and your endothelium is poor, function test, then you have high risk of atherosclerosis. That's mean you have too much of free radicals. Pathological, that will oxidize LDL and that will generate the plaque. And so that score that we are learning from Dan today is that it's very important, right? To increase the lifespan of the patient. If you increase a score from 5 to 9, believe me, you're giving the patients at least 10 years, 20 years of his life back, right? And we know that 1 year, even 1 minute, 1 day, worth millions of dollars for the person. There's a movie about they're buying time by money, right? And you can buy time by doing all this preventive measurements that we are talking in. Again, you may have billions of dollars and you're having diabetic, and the person does not have diabetic and he has only $100 in his bank. Which one is more richer? Well, the one with $100 and has not diabetic is richer than the one has $1 billion and he has diabetic, right? The one with $100 in the bank can enjoy the life, and it's better than the one with $1 billion. He cannot eat any more carbohydrates, and he has high risk of atherosclerosis. So what I'm just saying is that we need to focus on prevention, and it will be more cost effective for the health system of the United States if we focus on spending money in prevention. And that's what European countries are doing. They are moving to that direction of spending money in prevention and health optimization. And again, health optimization, I think we wrote a book of chronic disease prevention management, and I think you can see in that book ways of health optimized. And I think one day that anybody has visceral fat, and I think we talk about this with Stefan, he said, well, I'm reading an MRI, and the MRI shows the belly is full of fat, and the doctors say it's normal MRI. It's not normal, right? I agree with that, Stefan. Visceral fat is a source of free radical, is a source of interleukin-6, is a source of estrogens, is a source of converting sex hormone into estrogens. And if you lower the sex hormone, what will happen? Your antioxidant expression goes down, your free radical generators goes up, along with interleukin-6 that's being produced, along with estrogens. Then the patient will turn from sex hormone dominance into cortisone dominance, and cortisone causes the whitening of the hair, the aging process. Yes, it's anti-inflammatory, but also it's an aging molecule, and it suppresses the immune system, putting you at risk of cancer. And you have all this metabolic syndrome because of those oxidation, they will oxidize the insulin receptor, become insensitive, and you end up with metabolic syndrome and damaging the endothelial and leads to high blood pressure. So all the problems come from that visceral fat. And so it is very critical that I think in the future, anybody has excess of fat, that will be considered is not normal. Um, so that's what. Oops, I got interrupted here for a while. Okay, sorry for that. So that's what we need to come up with. I think in the future, um, that anybody has visceral fat or excess fat, we will consider as he is abnormal. And we need to work on decreasing their fat. And that's the reason why PLG1 or GLP-1s are the highest prescription right now is the GLP-1, by the way, worldwide. It's like crazy. And I encourage that because, we are getting rid from obesity, which is a pandemic in the world. 60% of adult population obese. And obese is the culprit of almost all chronic diseases. And so, and the test that we talked about, the test what we talked about, it does contain, it passes electricity in the body, and it tells you whether you have excess fat or not. So that's a good thing about the test we talked about, is it passes electricity, and if you have too much of fat, it's called electrical impedance test. And if you have too much of fat in your body composition, then electricity will not pass, and the system will say you have too much of fat, and this is how much percentage of fat you have. So it gives you some fat, muscle, water distribution of the body calculation, which is very important. So that system that we talked about, you have to have it in your clinic, because if it's abnormal, then you say to the patient, hey, your body composition is abnormal. And because you have to have excess fat, then you have too much of inflammation, because it's production. The fat tissue produces interleukin-6 and converts 6 hormone into estrogens. And estrogens moves the cholesterol. Instead of making 6 hormones, they make cortisones. And cortisone suppress the immune system. And interleukin-6 activates all the free radical generators and inflammation, and aggravate any underlying chronic disease you have. You have diabetic, get worse. If you have hypertension, get worse. If you have degeneration, gets worse. So getting rid from the fat is very critical. And we do that with GLP-1s. It does help to inhibit the appetite and shrinks the fat, but you need to give cyclodextrin, because all those toxins that's being stored in the fat, it can cause damage to your liver and your heart and your kidneys. So cyclodextrin loaded with GLP-1, it's another project that I'm working with. It's important thing that we can get rid from those toxins that's being released from fat when we're doing weight loss program, and that's part of the program of weight loss that we are talking about. So what is the benefit? Cyclodextrin, in addition, it's detoxifying the body. It does help to deliver drugs into, it helps to pack drugs and inhibit the drugs from being degraded. And so the drugs or supplement that you're giving stays longer in the body. So that's the reason we want to load all the compounding formulations into cyclodextrin, all the supplements into cyclodextrin, because it stays longer, especially the peptides. You want to have a peptide works, loaded with cyclodextrin. If it's being loaded with cyclodextrin, you have more effect. Oxytocin, when we load it with cyclodextrin, we can see the effect of oxytocin. As we said, it's according to the new article, it helps to clear the body from the waste, which is the prions, which is the amyloids and all those toxic proteins, because of it stimulate the clearance of the waste by pumping the cervical lymphatics. So cyclodextrin can improve the solubility of the fiber. And so that's why when we do compounding, we want to mix it with cyclodextrin. Reduce the side effects by forming inclusion complex of cyclodextrin can reduce the gastrointestinal side effects commonly associated with this medication. That's the good thing. And synergistically, the combination of cyclodextrin with this medication, the niacin, and which that's my proposal here, is to develop a compounded formulation of cyclodextrin with the omega-3 and niacin. And I think that's something non-sterile compounding pharmacy can do it. Conclusion: why cyclodextrin, high-density lipoprotein, and triglyceride management has a promising role in managing cholesterol and atherosclerosis. They operate through a distinct mechanism at different stages of and are at the different stages of research and applications. Well, again, we cannot really give high density lipoprotein, but we can give cyclodextrin to boost it, but we can increase the endogenous production of high density lipoprotein. The potential of compounding cyclodextrin with fibrates, niacin, omega-3 fatty acids offer a novel approach to enhance the efficacy and safety of this treatment. Further studies are needed to fully harness their potential in clinical stages. So we need to come up with, start doing it. Start with alpha and beta cyclodextrin, loaded with omega-3. If it's not working, loaded with niacin. It's not working, fibrates. And hopefully your fatty acids and cholesterol will be lowered. And you don't need the statin as much as we don't like it because of its effect on sex hormone production. Okay, I think we're done. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Yeah.
The question is this, and maybe you answered it already. How do we know if there's enough cyclodextrin coming through the nasal spray to detoxify the body? Because it seems like that's such a small amount, and it's having to travel all the way through the brain and through the rest of the body. Is there really that much cyclodextrin in, say, a progesterone formula to have a significant detoxification on the body?
Well, on the brain, yes. On the whole body, you may need to end up doing IV cyclodextrin loaded with EDTA to give the really shot of detoxing the body. But constantly use cyclodextrin in your medication and would definitely accumulate their effect, and it's better than none.
Yeah.
But if you want to really detox the body, then you can go with IV cyclodextrin loaded with EDTA, and that's the project that I'm working with as well.
And that's sort of, we're speculating, basically. Right now, we don't have a...
Well, we have publications. No, all of this are publications support what we're talking. Cyclodextrin is something is not new. We have clinical data that proves it helps to clear atherosclerosis. We have publications that support that already. We have even.
But I'm talking about from the nasal spray. You know, how much is getting absorbed and how much detoxification can that? No, I'm bringing it up just to fine tune the bigger understanding. From my standpoint, you know, if we're doing a nasal spray at nighttime, we're doing a nasal spray in the morning, then we have maybe an injectable peptide with cyclodextrin. Collectively, we've got a nice detoxification plan happening all the time, even though it's not a big detox treatment. It's little by little, and I guess if we wanted to ensure that we are getting a nice remediation of our body, I say, or of the home of our body, then we can maybe once a month do like an IV cyclodextrin or something like that. That's kind of how I think about it.
Yes. I think you work it out, and if the patient require more of detoxing, and what you're doing is not enough, I think we just need to be smart there and do the IV cyclodextrin loaded with EDTA to clear the body.
What, Dr. Halasa, what percentage of solution are you giving into the IV fluid? How many milligram of cyclodextrin?
Whatever you're giving with EDTA, you add.
We are giving 3 grams.
So you can add 3 grams of cyclodextrin.
Okay. Well, I mean, I am in process of starting cyclodextrin as a diluent in my peptides.
That's a good approach. And what you're doing as a method of sonication.
And we can do the same thing for oxytocin, same thing for progesterone, same thing for, why not for methylene blue?
You can do it with methylene blue too, and it helps to stabilize it, slow release, and enhance it.
We are making methylene blue liposomal now.
Oh, great, with cyclodextrin. Oh, that's great.
No, not with cyclodextrin, with the phosphatidylcholine using as a phospholipid agent.
Oh, okay, all right.
And then I'm just thinking that that molecule you can mix it after that processing, you can do it processing with the cyclodextrin. But cyclodextrin doesn't have to be processed. It doesn't have to be sonicated. The other things you have to sonicate.
Well, just to make it thin and making sure it's being loaded according to the publication, they do the sonication the same way we do with platelets nanoparticle.
For cyclodextrin?
Yes.
Oh, I thought that if you leave the cyclodextrin overnight with something else, it usually without sonication it does that.
Well, it's better with sonication. That's the whole thing, because we need to thin it, especially when you do intranasal. Some cyclodextrin they clog, and to break it down and thin the whole thing, because we have some complaints about just mixing cyclodextrin with oxytocin. It becomes thick and jelly.
But what percentage of cyclodextrin?
Well, using the same weight, 1-to-1, we reduce it to half. Maybe that would work, but sonication will be the best option.
Is it like a 1% or is it like a 0.1%?
The cyclodextrin?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what drug that you're mixing. So you do it 1-to-1 ratio. So if it's 50
I know,
milligram,
but the 1-to-1 ratio, I agree with that.
if it's 50
But
milligram
this
of progesterone, then 50 milligram cyclodextrin per mil. But sometimes because the compounding does not have sonication, so it cannot break it down and load it if perfectly. You're just mixing it as
I will try that and see if it works.
Oh, it will work. It makes it more
Yeah.
thinner. Right.
Yeah.
For the publication, that's the process of doing it, just sonication. Right. Okay, everybody here, any questions?
I've got another comment, hopefully. Okay, I'm also getting this scanner. It's called the OligoScan, which we talked about, which I think will complement this nicely, because there was also the question of, well, first of all, if this is chelating some heavy metals out of the brain and out of the body as well, depending on how much cyclodextrin we're using, then
Is it the same one that you use it for your hand and it
yes.
measures the zinc and copper and everything else?
Yes, because it's also, because you had mentioned, Dr. Patel, like, how do we know that we're not also developing mineral deficiencies?
Right.
And so the oligoscanner is measuring not only toxic heavy metals, but it's measuring essential minerals and their actually their relationship to each other, actually, because there's more than meets the eye with minerals. It's not like, are you low?
It is not, I mean, you have to do the serum level, blood level, red blood cell level, and these at the same time, and see what correlation you are getting it. Because I was going to buy it a few years ago. I didn't buy it because that was my main thing. And then we did not want to say that we are doing the voodoo medicine, because there has to be some degree of, you want to make sure that there is some degree of clinical application with the laboratory results, and that scan report was, I think if you look in that, there's no comparison like that.
Yeah, and everything you're saying, I absolutely agree. I mean, you're absolutely right. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to have things as convenient and simple. I think simple is crucial now, and quick. You get the result now, kind of like the endothelial testing. You get the result now. And I'm trying to have as many screens that are, I would say, legitimate. Oligoscan, no, that's not considered would not be, well, we don't know if it would be acceptable for conventional medicine, because it could be completely accurate, but it's just not part of how the mainstream is going to look at it. But it doesn't mean that I wouldn't do a blood mineral testing, I guess. It's that each patient, the patient comes when what we're doing, this is not a primary care clinic. This is
No,
a
you're
this
right.
is this is a research center for people who want to take control of their own health, and they want to see what they can try, and it's their choice, okay, that they're choosing, as long as they know that the measurements are convenient, and that they are probably giving us a lot of great information that most people are not getting anyways. I mean, who's looking at mineral balances? It's not about deficiencies or excesses. It's about how they relate to each other, as I'm learning. For example, zinc and copper can yield interesting results. You could look like you have excess zinc when really it's being pushed out of the cells by the copper, and it's in the interstitial connective tissue, and that's actually a zinc deficiency. And so there's more than meets the eye with measuring minerals, and it also gives a snapshot of the vitamin D and the B complexes, different B vitamins and vitamin E, and right away, even if it's not confirming, say, a heavy metal toxicity, if you have a couple of metals like aluminum that show up extra high, or mercury, right away you're dealing with something there. I don't know of anybody here who doesn't have any heavy metals in their system. We just need that screen, something to raise an eyebrow, say, and confirm, yeah, hey, heavy metals, yep, that's going to be part of our plan too. Even when I had my scan done, I believe it was very accurate. It showed that my iodine was very, very low. I mean, extremely low. And my fluorine was very, very, very high. Very high. And that's consistent with how fluorine works. It gets rid of, or it knocks off iodine, or takes the binding spot. And I had a severe iodine deficiency that was immediately recognizable on an oligo scan. And I think, but most people are not getting these kind of results even when they order regular blood work. So if we can come in, we get our endothelial scan, we can get an oligo scan, we get a snapshot of the minerals, or we can follow up with, if we start the cyclodextrin, so we can see, hey, our heavy metal count is going down. We're trending in the right direction, and we're not losing minerals at the same time. At least we're monitoring what we're doing to a degree. And the other thing is having an EKG. I purchased an EKG. They're not terribly expensive, and they work great. I had to relearn EKGs, at least the basics, and learn how to actually do them and not have a tech do them. But there's a lot of complaints of palpitations and tachycardia and irregular heart rhythms. I hear it all the time. And we have to know what the patient's heart rhythms. We need to make sure that our patients aren't running around with atrial fibrillation, because I believe it's becoming more common. And when people are falling over dead from cardiopulmonary arrest, most likely, or having myositis, cardiomyositis, that most likely is an arrhythmia. And so I'm trying to very quickly gather up as much information of the most crucial things as easy and quickly as possible with people, without making it overly complicated, like a traditional medical office would do it, which an old traditional office I can appreciate, but the crazy offices of today, forget about it. I'm looking for the most simplest way to obtain information, have results to compare, and then if we need to dig deeper, I guess that would be the point. If something raises an eyebrow that we have to get a more of a gold standard confirmation, then we can take it to that that level. So I agree. We can't assume that like an oligoscan that is a gold standard, but it appears to be a great screening tool.
I think you, as you mentioned, you're right, and you can use your patient as the control. So you don't have to go and look at, okay, this is what we think, and this is what we have done, and this is what we are seeing. So we are seeing, and maybe you can do the first time to see that where you stand before you supplement heavily or before you make changes, so that at least you know that this particular level is associated with this serum or this RBC level, so you have some idea before. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that and live blood sample I forgot to mention. Trying to get caught up to speed with, you know what happened to us. You know, doctors used to actually look at blood and urine. They knew what they were looking at. And I realized I didn't know what I was looking at because it wasn't taught, and it just wasn't part of what we were doing. And then I realized how valuable it would be to actually be able to look under the microscope and know what we're looking at.
Right. I'm doing that now.
Yeah, and yeah,
Yeah,
so
but it is for one person, it's a lot of work. Then you want to do that simultaneously in a busy, but that is something, I mean, I have a microscope and with the monitor, a TV monitor on it.
yeah, well, so far I'm not doing everything on a visit. I'm sort of working it out, so
yeah,
it's like step by step, and also at the same time, I don't think we should expect patients, especially for what we're doing. A lot of them will travel distances to see us, that we expect them that our office only works if they can show up, twice a week, or it's just not reasonable. Especially now, we, people don't have the time and energy to go to a physical location, but there's still a place for that doctor-patient interaction, and to get hands-on, physical examination, and to run some of these quick, I would say, convenient, very informational tests that give us data to compare. And again, we are coming at it from like a research center. Like, this is research. The patient has decided to take their health into their own hands. They want to try, say, a research program, and this is what it is. This research program is actually measuring using the oligo scanner to measure or using the endothelial to test to measure, and that's what we're measuring, and that's what you choose to participate in. Again, we're not the primary care physician in this context. I'm just trying to have a model of a practice, especially a cash-based practice, that works and is not overly complicated, because we don't have the time and energy with the chaos and well, I mean, to me, the world's completely, I feel like I'm living in an absolute freak show. So I don't even, consider anything I experience as ordinary. This is like the twilight zone for me. I just think simple right now. Simple is the way to go, as long as the patient understands what they are, what they're participating in.
Yeah,
Don't you
I
love
have
it?
a question. I have a question. This is Sylvan. We're all using progesterone intranasal, but how do we know what we're doing? How do you measure it? How do you know where you stand? What kind of numbers do you look for? Well, and even who measures? How do you measure it? Does anybody know the answer to that?
Measuring which level? Sorry, Sylvan.
Right, using the progesterone. We're all putting progesterone in our noses. Do we have any idea what kind of a level we have? What do you eat? What do you even measure? How do you measure it? What company do you use? And
Oh,
what are we looking for?
yeah, no, I
Other
think
than have no idea about any of it other than just putting it in my nose.
Yeah, I mean, I wish there was like a progesterone scanner or something that, but I do use, well, I utilize blood tests. I still do regular CBCs and measure the hormones that way. But if they're already on hormones, I have them do a saliva test kit. There's ZRT, or we were gonna, whoever lab we were working with, we were gonna see if they would do it for us, but I don't think that's
So
happening right
do
now.
you have is there a specific lab and you want so okay, let's say
Yeah,
saliva is easy to send in. People can do that.
yes.
What's the laboratory? What's the name of it?
The name of it
Yeah, I
is
mean, where do we send it?
well, that's where, yeah. So how I do it is I have a kit sent out. My manager, she's remote. Her name's Debbie. She will, and I have an account with the different various labs, including ZRT lab. They're the ones that have the saliva hormone kits, and so I have her send in the requisition for the specific hormone panel, which is
Oh,
typically,
okay.
and then I am actually looking at those ratios. It does give like the estrone, the estradiol, estriol, and testosterone, and maybe DHEA, and a couple others. And I am looking at those ratios to compare, and that's what we're looking for. In that
Well,
context, it has everything to do. My understanding, it has everything to do with estrogen dominance. That's what we're actually addressing in that context with hormones, is estrogen dominance, and is it improving?
so when we take progesterone, we're looking at the ratio of progesterone to what?
Oh,
To estro, what rate? What is the key ratio we're looking for that we're trying to get?
yeah, no, fantastic. And I'm going to try to answer this off the top of my head because I had to wrestle with it, because it's different for women and for men. So for women, I believe it's the ratio of estrone over estradiol. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It would be and Dr. Halasa can jump in here in a minute
You're
here.
right. You're right. Go ahead.
But what's that? So, okay, there's a
Right.
couple of ratios: estrones over estradiol, and I believe estradiol or progesterone over estradiol. So two of them. And then for men, it's just simply looking for the ratio of progesterone over estradiol. Sorry, progesterone. Excuse me. Um,
It's estradiol, yeah.
it's estradiol, right? Yeah. So and that's where sometimes we get our estrogens and estradiols confused. But yeah, it's progesterone over estradiol, and also we are looking for the ratio of I believe um, it's testosterone. Dr. Halasa, could you help me with this one?
He's not around. Cortisol, I
Uh,
thought we were doing cortisol too.
Yeah, so we're also looking at the ratio of testosterone to um, mm, I don't recall, but the
right.
ones that I
Okay.
did say, and if you don't know what the number should be, what you do, and keep in mind, so say for women, estrone in general is going to be much higher than estradiol in general. Okay,
Okay.
even in the normal values, but you take the the higher valued one that has a higher normal value um, range. That's so in that context, it's estrone over estradiol, and then you take the highest of the normal value of estrone and the lowest of the low value of the normal range for estradiol, and you basically divide it and then cut it in half, and that gives you a basic uh, ratio that if that estrone is higher than that number, when you actually get the actual numbers of the estrone and the estradiol, and you find out what that ratio is, if that ratio is actually higher than that short little equation I just told you, take the highest of the normal range and divide it by the lowest of the normal range of the bottom, and then just cut it in half. Cut that number in half, which basically it's just giving you a reasonable range. And if if your actual ratio is higher than that, then you know that you're dominant.
Well, the
I
question,
think you
do you
can
do
say
this
that it's
before
about
start?
you.
No, I'm sorry. Do you do this before starting?
Yes.
Let's say you want to put a woman who's, around 50. Can you just go ahead and start the progesterone because you know it's going to be low or heading low? Or do you have to do this test first and then do it again, or just start the progesterone and then do the test, since you're going to be replacing progesterone most likely?
Yeah, and that's where reality and situations can differ. If, say, for example, if they are coming into, say, the office setting in a research setting where it's like, this is what we're researching, this is what we're doing, then, and so you kind of have to follow it the way it's supposed to be done, because otherwise we're but in general, I don't think that you have to, because that she's going to have low progesterone to begin with. I mean, anybody, and we know that progesterone is safe, and intranasal is safe, and so in spontaneous situations, or if I'm dealing with somebody that just needs and wants it, fine. As long as we make sure that we do look at it within a reasonable time. They're just not a part of the research.
Dr. Joseph, I have a question. Actually, I want to chime in here. When people do sublingual progesterone, if you use the ZRT lab and do the saliva test, that is highly, highly overestimated, the progesterone level. I wondered, when you do your intranasal progesterone and you do the CRT lab, getting saliva test, what the outcome will be, because probably it may not be as accurate as we think.
That's a good point, because the last saliva test I received, it was interesting how the progesterone seems so much higher than anything else.
Right.
So, and I was curious about that. Even though the patient was taking progesterone, they were only taking a 25 milligram capsule before bedtime. I was surprised it showed up as such a high value.
Great. So I think it must be skewed because of the route of delivery. So something to look into.
No, thank you. I'm glad you brought that up, because you confirmed my suspicion. I think my understanding with hormones in general is that in the past you could manage somebody's hormone. You could manage somebody's hormone. Because somebody's talking with the speaker on. Hey, Dr. Patel. I think I can hear conversation. Anyways, so it seems to me, in the past, when hormone optimization was getting started, the reason why they were checking the labs was more to cover themselves, because there was so much liability and stigma behind and misunderstandings behind bioidentical hormones. But the reality is once I started doing them, I realized almost everybody goes on the same doses. Women would start on biased at a certain dose, and men would typically be on testosterone 100 milligrams a week. And I realized that we were really treating people clinically. It had more to do with how how do you feel? And even with the hormones, you could tie estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone directly to specific behaviors that for the female patient. You know, if they were starting to go out more and wear colorful clothes and things like that they used to, then their estrogen, or if they were going out too much and wearing bright clothes, we might want to take the estrogen down a little bit. So there was an intuitiveness to hormone optimization. It's just that the reason why they were checking the labs or told to is because if you didn't and something happened that was totally unrelated to the labs, that you might find yourself in a terrible
Sure.
lawsuit.
Right, right.
So for me,
you
when
know what I mean. So what I'm trying to say
I-
about the progesterone saliva, I'm glad you brought that up. I think of when I measure these labs is just, I'm just trying to. It's not trying to be perfect. It's just trying to see how they relate to each other. And I'm glad that the progesterone is, you've seen that as overestimated. And I think we'll just have to take that into account, that we may, if the numbers are close, we may want to err on the side of realizing that, or if the progesterone isn't that high on a saliva test, we may want to err on the side of, we definitely want to add the progesterone because it's probably even lower, since it's typically shows up a little bit higher on a
Right.
saliva test. You know what I mean? I think it's just a frame of reference. It's not about having exact numbers. That's my
Sure.
point.
I understand. You know, you raise an interesting question. The 25 milligram capsule, with all these sprays and those things, who knows what you're really getting? Why not just take a straight
So
capsule,
25
25,
milligram
30?
capsule is very small. If you do by mouth, there's a first pass in the liver and a conversion to pregnenolone. So that means the amount of progesterone you get in the bloodstream is very, very small. So you may be losing it all through the feces and evacuation. That's why many people who do the capsules, they do 100, 150, 200 milligrams. So then they can make sure people are getting enough of the progesterone. Now, the intranasal, you had the doctor who spoke here, you have a very good point. How much of the progesterone people are getting when you do the intranasal if you do a 10 milligram? Well, I can tell you, when you do a sublingual progesterone 10 milligram, people are getting very minimal. If you do a blood test, you hardly see that the progesterone level went up. So it could be that a small amount of progesterone gets into the bloodstream intranasally, but that you have to do a blood test to figure out. If you do a saliva test, it's not going to pick that up. And there are many companies that do that. So if you do, for women especially, men not so, but women, if you did a Genova diagnostic test for a hormonal health kit for women, that would definitely give you the progesterone level, the estrogen levels, and everything else.
Okay. Okay, thank you. What, in your opinion,
I do use them.
what's the
I do
best
use
absorption?
them.
Oh,
Dr. Patel, yeah, go ahead.
no, I'm not just, what do you think is the best absorption, nose, pill, or sublingual? I mean, I've done testosterone for years, sublingual, never had a problem. But in terms of progesterone, where do you think you would have the best absorption? You know, a capsule, sublingual, or intranasal?
The best, because you know where your intranasal, when you shot it, you have the sinuses both sides on your cheek. It's big cavity there, both of them. And also you want to get it into the brain because you decrease the inflammation of the brain, and also you want progesterone to go to the brain for the reason when it metabolizes, it turns into a metabolite that helps the GABA like metabolites called alloprogesterone, I think, and
Yeah, but
that
we say that. Does
But
anyone?
if you do the
helps.
intranasal and you sniff it up,
Yeah.
it's going to go straight to your throat. So it's not going to the brain.
Well, you need to spray in the right way. You know, there's a method. You laying down and then raising your head so that goes into the cribriform plate. versus going to the throat. It's just the technique of sniffing it in a position, the right position. It does go, especially the spray. It's going to be a special spray where it gives you all spreading the droplets all over, and eventually some of it will go to the brain, which metabolizes and turns into GABA-like. It's called alloprogesterone. That helps to sedate and you sleep and give you the long sleep that you need. And that's the reason, one of the reason why people above 50, they short their sleep cycle is being affected, and they have 6 hours of sleep instead of 8 or maybe less. It's just because of the deficiency of progesterone. So doing that helps you to prolong your sleep, gets you into deep sleep without affecting the cycle of the sleep, like all this sedative things. It also helps your blood pressure because it's a vasodilator, helps to feed your sex hormones, the progesterone, the estrogen and testosterone. It helps to prevent the conversion of the testosterone into dihydrotestosterone or to estrogen.
Actually, I suggest that we do one thing is to use the same cyclodextrin preparation of the progesterone sublingually and also do it intranasally, and measure the outcome of both by measuring the amount of progesterone that is getting into the bloodstream. That
Well, you
would
can do that. Do it under
a
the
nice test. Yeah, a nice test to figure out
do it under
how much.
up swallowing it a lot, and you get foaming and it's sore and it better taste. Intranasal, you don't get that much of foaming in the mouth, trying not to swallow. So I did it with testosterone, and I didn't feel good about it. I like it intranasal, just a spray, and you're done with it. You know, instead of holding it in your mouth under your tongue and not trying to swallow it. And
But how do we really know it's going in the brain? Has anyone measured it? Because I don't lie down and put my head upside down so I can get the cribriform plate. I don't think many people do. They sitting up or they spray it. And what really gets in the cribriform plate?
I mean, the spray is powerful. Some of those sprays machine is powerful. It shoots out. So there's
it's not powerful. It's very erratic, the spray.
Some they are special for getting it into the cribriform, by the way.
Well, with the ones we use, I'm talking not theoretical. The ones we use, it's an erratic spray, and who knows where it goes. And I don't know how many people lie down and do it.
And still, that is better than that's more thinner than even the sublingual.
Okay, I mean
that is more thin. Absorption in the internet.
Okay, but for years, the people just took capsules. That was for years.
Yeah, the capsules. The only thing you don't want to exhaust the liver with progesterone, especially the old age people. They already have liver impact, and some people taking progesterone orally, they end up yellowish in color.
Okay, I thought it was anti-inflammatory and a very good.
Yeah, but
that's why we're using it.
Does burden the liver for the metabolism side, and you don't want to be bothering the liver. That's the reason I don't like to stuff orally nor sex hormone. I like to give it intranasal and then take the benefit, the advantage of converting progesterone to alloprogesterone and give you that good night's sleep, lowering your blood pressure, improving your luteal function, help feed up your sex hormones, manage estrogen dominancy, metabolic syndrome, add iodide in the morning, the capsule iodide with methylene blue, and oxytocin, which, as we learned recently, helps to contract or stimulate the lymphatic drainage of the waste of the brain. That do the, and then if you want to do the diet capsule, you don't want a GLP-1s, which we are working on loading it inside cyclodextrin, by the way, so that when you shrink the fat-soluble toxin that's coming, it's being cleared by cyclodextrin. I'm working with the compounding pharmacy to move to that direction. All the compounding formulation is going to be loaded with cyclodextrin.
Okay.
But adding capsule, if you don't want GLP-1 for some reason, some people, they are not tolerant to it, then you can do the diet capsule, which is naltrexone, metformin, and amloxanox combined together, along with vitamin B12. And hey, you know, we're going to add it to cyclodextrin as well. Up to 20 grams cyclodextrin is not toxic, up to 20 grams. So I think that's the direction, and Big Pharma are moving to that direction. Lilly, Pfizer, they are moving to load their drugs in cyclodextrin, and I think that's the direction of medicine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, Dr. Joseph, I'm gonna be there soon in October. I'm gonna enjoy the beach. I know are going to. We're gonna go to the conference to the Academy of Stem Cell Physician. Hopefully, we print the books.
Okay.
Benoit, you want to talk about the book a little bit and about your program of printing the books, because you said you want to have that little bit here. And yeah, go ahead, Dr. Benoit. Take your
Everybody
10
is
minutes.
off, so it's a tough one. Well, anyway, I can share my screen. Do you see my screen, guys?
We
Anybody?
see it. We see it.
Yeah. No. So you see my screen now. Now I have this site, I call it the TirePro Mediverse. And TirePro Mediverse has a library. It's a big library. As you can see, I have personal development, free English, free stuff. But what is important, you can see one here, it's called Optimal Health Secrets. And if you open the category Optimal Health Secrets, we have several books that are here. I did a presentation on prostate cancer versus prostatitis. So I have